Hey guys, welcome back to SourceFedNERD. Now, recently you may have seen a bunch of us on social media going nuts about a little announcement regarding a certain Nightwing movie. And we went even more crazy because the attached director is Chris McKay. So if you're like, what movie and who McKay? This video's for you. Chris McKay just so happens to be the director of the fantastic Lego Batman movie. On my personal channel, I made this argument about how he gave us the most realistic take on the character of Batman we've ever had. Check that out if you want to know how. But yeah, he's fantastic. And then Nightwing, boy, if you don't know about Nightwing, you're about to know a whole lot. Get ready. Let's start at the beginning for Nightwing, except he wasn't Nightwing. He was just good old Dick Grayson, the first sidekick to Batman, aka Sweet Little Robin. You guys probably know the most about this part of Dick's life. He was previously the youngest member of the Flying Graysons, an amazing family of acrobats known for their death-defying stunts and amazing acrobatic ability. Unfortunately, not all of their stunts were death-defying, because while it's different depending on the storyline you're reading, the Flying Graysons became the victims of sabotage, their act goes wrong, and it just wipes out everybody in the Grayson family except for Dick. So, right here, from the get-go, Dick suffers a fate very similar to little Bruce Wayne, but it's gonna affect him very differently, eventually. Bruce Wayne does get wind of this poor kid situation and he takes him on as a ward. That's not really something that happens anymore, by the way. Now when an older man pays the way for a younger boy, it's deemed creepy for some reason. Anywho, despite being Bruce's ward, Dick doesn't know dick about Bruce's nighttime activities, but he takes it upon himself to avenge his parents' death and try to solve their murder. It doesn't go great, and eventually he gets saved by / comes face to face with the Batman. Now, it's debatable exactly how old Dick was at this time, but let's go with 12. Yeah, really that young. Remember how he's this incredibly amazing acrobat? Well, that combined with his passion for justice gives Batman the idea of regularly endangering this preteen by making him his sidekick. It's good for kids to have extracurricular activities. So, as you know, Dick took on the identity of Robin and a little too leggy of a costume if you ask me. Around here is where Dick makes a few choices that prevent him from becoming too similar to Bruce. For instance, he makes friends and even adopts a leadership role with other endangered children in the Teen Titans. That, combined with Bruce's example of what not to be like, kept him from becoming the tortured brute that his mentor was. And naturally, they also end up beginning to disagree in terms of their philosophies too. Now here's a big moment coming up with a lot of different depictions. Dick leaves the Robin mantle behind. Some stories he's fired by Batman, though it's for his own safety really. Others he quits because he's mad as hell and he's not gonna take it anymore. Around this time, the Titans are engaging in one of their most popular storylines, the Judas contract. They're actually making that an animated movie this year, by the way. Anywho, this is when the Titans have to deal with the way too scary villain for them, Deathstroke. Seriously, this is one of my favorite things to remind people, that insane mercenary of Deathstroke, who was a villain in the upcoming Batman movie, who's tormented the hell out of Arrow and his family on the CW show. That character was originally meant for the Teen Titans to deal with. So, with all of them totally outmatched, Dick has to come back to his heroics, except this time, he does so under a new name, Nightwing. So Nightwing had a whole new badass look, black and blue, and those legs were all covered up. Plus he tosses a cape admitting he never really was a fan of those. And he starts working a pair of sticks like nobody's business. He picked up his name after hearing a story from Superman about an old Kryptonian vigilante, and actually, fun side note, originally it was Superman who temporarily was a character named Nightwing, and his sidekick was this little fiery redhead named Jimmy Olsen who went by Flamebird. One of the worst names I've ever heard, and I love it so much. I'm Flamebird. Meanwhile, Batman still wasn't having it with Dick, and it was very awkward for them when Dick realized Batman had a new Robin. So Dick decides he can't go back to Gotham, but he can go real close by to a little municipality by the name of Bludhaven. And what do you know? It has all the same issues with crime that Gotham does. And even worse, he doesn't have a partner in the police department like Commissioner Gordon in Gotham. So Dick decides to take on crime from both sides and becomes Officer Dick Grayson of the Bludhaven Police. Bludhaven is probably the city and time most associated with Nightwing and contains some of his most interesting stories. I'm gonna get back to some of those in a minute. But around this time is when I'm thinking we're gonna see a movie set. But I'll also mention that around this time, Dick does a bunch of other cool shit, like fill in for Batman multiple times. He also becomes a secret spy. I'm not gonna get too into the details of that story because I realized they actually could do part of that in the movie and I don't wanna spoil the big twist there. There are also some other things I could mention to catch you up on the comics, but honestly, they're a real good read. And most recently with DC Rebirth, they kind of went back to basics with Dick just being Nightwing again in a very straightforward way. So you've got the main history stuff that you need to know. But let's talk about what this character is like. Who is Nightwing? Underline the is. First off, the most common comparison Nightwing gets is, not surprisingly, to Batman. It's actually something he has to deal with a lot. Comparing the two in very literal ways, Dick is amazing, like insanely amazing, but you wouldn't really argue that he's a better fighter or smarter or a better detective or really anything else better than Bruce, except for maybe a better acrobat. But the way you really should be comparing these two is in their personalities. Long story short, Dick is the biggest charmer in the DC universe. Seriously, everyone wants a piece of the guy. He was actually named sexiest male character by Comics Alliance not too long ago, and yeah, even the characters in the comics regularly acknowledge he's just really bangable. Girls and guys. I'm looking at you, Midnighter. But it's not just that attraction. The guy is just extremely lovable. There's this great moment where he's asked how he manages to stay friends with all his exes, and he responds, "That is my superpower." And he's not wrong. Even villains like this guy. He can make allies and friends with damn near anyone. And that's one big reason why fans love him so much. Dick really took on the best traits of all his mentors, almost like he was raised by Batman and Superman. Dick Grayson is like the child of the DC universe that we all watched grow up and everyone contributed to raising. Okay, I think you get the idea. He's likable. But even though people say this a lot, I don't totally agree that he's just a nice guy version of Batman. He's got his own issues and motivations that are unique to being raised by someone as weird as Batman. There are two main things I want to highlight about his psyche. Being in the shadow of the bat has made him extremely self-conscious about whether or not he's good enough, specifically whether or not he is worthy of taking over for Batman when that time comes. And let's be clear, for a mere mortal, he's about as close to Batman as you can get, and yet he still always questions if he's anywhere near as good as his mentor. In the best Nightwing stories, his antagonists really capitalize on that feeling of unworthiness he has. The other thing that is really interesting about Dick is that he's an optimist. Somehow, despite everything he's seen and experienced, he believes in things eventually working out. Good will win the day. That sounds very not Batman. But also, nothing scares Dick more than being wrong about all that. He knows what it looks like when you become the beast that only serves to dole out punishment in an eternal mission like Sisyphus never really making any progress. It's not good for the soul. That dichotomy of wanting to be worthy of becoming Batman and yet never wanting to actually be Batman, that makes his situation extremely unique and his motivation just really complex.
That's not me. I don't want to be the Batman anymore.
Nightwing the movie will need to set itself apart from the grittiness around the Batman films because Dick Grayson needs to represent hope. He gets knocked down and kicked around at times, but he never gives up hope. It's a central theme to his existence. Anyway, let's talk about some relevant side characters, specifically ones I'd like to see in the film. First off, Dick Grayson may have been the first Robin, but there have been a good number of follow-up Robins, and Dick's relationship with them is always fascinating. He's been a mentor at times to them like Batman was to him, but also, when you put these two different approaches of what a Robin can be like side by side, you really see what makes Dick so special. For instance, him and Jason Todd become very different men, and seeing that in his movie could be really interesting. Of course, that would require establishing a lot of history for Batman that so far the DCEU has not done, so I don't want them to jam these people in if they aren't established yet. Do it somewhere else. While Nightwing has faced off against a number of Batman's rogues, for instance, Two-Face delivered some real serious blows in the formation of Dick Grayson, he's also got a few of his own villains. Specifically, I'd like to see a movie set in Bludhaven with Nightwing going to war against Blockbuster. Blockbuster is a huge brute that might seem a little one-dimensional, but done right, their relationship can at times feel a lot like what Netflix depicted beautifully between Daredevil and Kingpin. By the way, side note, if you want your Marvel equivalent of Nightwing, Daredevil's a pretty solid choice. You could argue that Nightwing actually might be a good bit stronger than Daredevil, but their fighting styles really go well together. Back to Blockbuster. With him being in charge of the criminal underworld of Bludhaven, he obviously has beef to pick with Nightwing, who's trying to stamp out crime. So in one story, he puts a big hit on Nightwing. That story of him being hunted by a bunch of great assassins while trying to wipe out the big boss could be great. And here's a shortcut on how to do it in the movie, John Wick 2. That's it, do that. That would be so good. Another villain that would make a lot of sense in a Nightwing movie would be Tony Zucco. My only hesitation is that it might give you that not so fresh feeling, because in most stories, Tony Zucco is who is responsible for the death of Dick's parents. And that kind of vengeance storyline feels a little bit dated. However, combining the character into maybe a greater arc of something else could definitely work. And both of those instances could be really interesting if by day, we have Dick Grayson as a police officer. Either he's hunting Zucco as a cop, or he's avoiding assassins while on the job as a cop. Just a nice little addition to fit in there. But anyway, even though I'm not totally sold on Zucco, for instance, despite him being a big part of Nightwing's origin, I don't see how they could do this movie without bringing in my favorite of Nightwing's love interests, Barbara Gordon, Babs. You know how I mentioned mentioned that Dick is really special because he's had such a unique experience growing up and he's just such a charmer, Barbara Gordon is his match. In my opinion, these two feel made for each other, and while their romance tends to be on again, off again, they actually still totally work well together when they're not dating too. What's crazy about this is that if they do bring in Barbara Gordon in this movie, that means the DCEU is going to have an official Batgirl sitting right there. Boom! She's all set up for her Gotham City Sirens / Birds of Prey movie that supposedly they're also working on. It's just crazy that all of this could be really happening in movies, for real. What a time to be alive. Except we have to address the elephant in the room. No matter how you feel about the current crop of DCEU movies, there's no denying that there are huge sections of the fan base that have been unhappy. That's not a judgment on the films themselves, that just means that the content coming out isn't cutting it for a decent amount of people. So while I'm thrilled to see these tendrils of life starting to creep out into my favorite section of the DC universe, the extended Bat family, I'm very nervous about it too. So I'm gonna ask, right here, in fact I'm gonna plead, that Warner Brothers and DC put the script first, that they worry about getting that right, even if it takes years and years. I can wait. Also get a director that understands how to tell the story, but also one that they're gonna let do their thing and not mess with. Don't intervene. And I'm gonna be extra honest here. I think Nightwing would make a better Netflix-style TV show than it would a movie. But since that's not happening, I'm okay with the film version. Though please make it a trilogy because then you could save his relationship with Damian Wayne for a future movie and you could also do like Court of Owls stuff. But I only ask that you make it a film that cares way more about substance than style. Because this character could be real easy to mess up if you focus on style. Here's another way to put it. When you're trying to make a Batman movie, no one cares too much about Bruce Wayne because inside that guy's head, he's Batman. So the fun part of the character is what you get to focus on, and that's a lot of stylistic choices. But in this instance, Nightwing is Dick Grayson, not the other way around. So you gotta focus on the substance of that character, not the flashy stuff. So, in summation, Dick may be hard, but when done right, it'll be so worth it. If you can't get a good Dick going, then it's just gonna be awkward for everyone involved. So in that case, I'd rather you not Dick at all. Finally, as of the time of this video, we have no idea who's gonna play Dick Grayson. And let me just say that this is one of the few times that I think looks actually really do matter. It's just part of the character. He's known for his sex appeal. This guy slays. So the actor should be believable as that. A lot of people wanted Matt Bomer way back in the day, and he'd be great, and he's probably a little too old now. And you know what name I heard that I don't hate? Zac Efron. That is kind of what the character looks like, but more importantly, in recent movies, Efron has shown that he does legitimately have the charm to pull the character off. However, my real suggestion as of right now is do a wide casting call. How badass would it be if they found an actor whose name we don't know yet, who looks the part, acts the part, and can do crazy things like this? I'm assuming you played a video clip there. Thank you. But again, if you got a better name, I'm happy to hear it. Also, you guys might fight me on this, but I don't think it has to be a white guy. I think it certainly could be one, but in the comics a while back, the character was actually made Romani. If you're not familiar, that's the European ethnic group that a lot of people commonly refer to as gypsies, and their strong dark features actually line up with the character's look really well. But in the end, I'll always say, don't force diversity, consider it when you can, but really just give it to whoever will do the role justice. Also, go ahead and give my Game of Thrones Stark boys a chance to audition. All right, let me know who you think should play Master Dick, but also something I'm even more curious about, what do you think his story should be? And how much Robin origin story do you think they should include? Personally, I'd rather see his time as Robin in either quick flashbacks or maybe some sort of opening credits kind of sequence. Honestly, kind of like the opening to Watchmen, but let me know what you think. I'm Filup Molina. This video could have been twice as long and I still would not have included everything I wanted to. So feel free to hit me up on Twitter at Fimo if you want to keep talking Dick. Make sure to like this video, share it with your friends who need to know a lot more about Nightwing, and subscribe for more videos like this and all things nerdy. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.
The trailer for Lego Batman teased an overwhelming amount of Batman villains, and boy oh boy, did they over-deliver.
I can dive into one of the few things we do know about this movie, and that's what the hell Thanos is up to.